What's going on, football fans? Welcome to week 16 of Deep Balls. It's an NFL picks podcast for fieldgoals.com. I'm Danny Kelly, and I'm joined, as always, by Jackson Bevins. How you doing, Jackson?
I'm doing great, man. A little bit of a shaky start to our picks last week, but I think we both ended up doing all right.
Exactly. The only one we differed on was actually the Thursday night game between the Rams and the Bucks, I believe, which I won. And so I finished up 13-3. I moved to 137 and 84 on the year, which is in the 89th percentile. Jackson did get 12-4, still stays ahead of me by one. He's 138 and 83 straight up on the year in the 91st percentile, and he is one better than Vegas right now. Vegas is at 137 and picks straight up. So, we'll have to.
The favorites have been hot lately. Vegas is doing really, really well the last few weeks because they're hanging down in like the 75, 76 percentile for a long time, which is really low for them. But the favorites have been great in the last 3 weeks.
Do you know what like the average would be for a year, like in terms of percentile where they'd finish out?
I don't. I remember when I was tracking my success against the favorites back when I was writing the article that they seem to typically be in the low 90s. So they're at
pretty good.
89 right now. So they've kind of caught up, but that 70s number was really low.
Yeah. So
and the favorites always do tend to do well towards the end of the season because I think that, a lot of teams have kind of settled into who they are.
Right. It's easier to predict what they're going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Looking at the group right now, we've got a pretty good competition for first place right now. CW6 is still in first place. He got 10 last week. He or she got 10. They're at 149, 99.9th percentile. Betty Swallock's not far behind, though, 146. And then Mighty Hawk, Mommy Unit, Chris Kilby, and Gingerbread Man. Anyway, there's some really, really strong scores in this group, so that's pretty exciting.
I do want to give out an extra shout out to Camo Milk for going 15-1 last week. It's the first 15-win week we've had in our group, I think.
Wow. So good job picking against Vegas on those.
We'll in fact, I think they got the Thursday night game wrong and then won the rest of them.
That's insane.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just get right into it. There's kind of an interesting slate of games this week. The Thursday night game is it a Thursday night game? Is that be?
Yeah. We get Christmas Eve football.
Yeah, so that would be San Diego at Oakland, potentially one of San Diego's final games as a San Diego team. Oakland potentially could be one of their last games as an Oakland team. These are two of the teams that potentially could move, though it probably looks like more like the Rams and the Chargers. But regardless, it's in Oakland. Oakland is favored right now by 6. What do you think?
Yeah, when we were picking that last week, I didn't realize that the Chargers were playing probably their last game in San Diego.
Yeah.
And as soon as they mentioned that on Sunday morning, I instantly regretted not picking them. And they showed out. They played a great game and won.
San Diego let me down once again.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I didn't even I truly think that I would have picked them if I'd been aware of just kind of how meaningful that game was going to be, because the reason I didn't is their home field advantage hasn't meant anything, but it definitely did on Sunday. You could tell people were appreciative and wanted to show the team that they were grateful and all that. So that said, I think this sets up for an absolute letdown week. They're playing a team that's better than them. I think the Raiders are actually a pretty good team. They're 12th overall in DVOA. It's a short week on the road. It's not like they have to travel far, and they do know the team well, but still, that cuts into your preparation.
Yep.
So I went with the Raiders. I think that they're one of those teams that's going to finish somewhere between 7 and 9, 7 and 8 wins, just like a lot will this year. But of all those teams, I think their trajectory is probably as high as any of them going into next year. And I think they're starting to figure out who they are. And we're starting to see that they have some really, really good young players there. Sheldon Mack getting 5 sacks and a half, against Denver is crazy.
Khalil Mack,
anyhow, yeah. I took the Raiders in this one, and I just couldn't really find a reason to take the Chargers,
Yeah, totally. I did too. I took Oakland. Like you said, number one, they're the home team on a Thursday night game. I think their nucleus is very strong, as you said. I think that the signing of Michael Crabtree has turned out to be really good for them.
Yeah.
That's one of those underrated things last year. He was a free agent for a long time.
Yeah, he was. I remember thinking that his career was buried. Like no one wanted him, and he kind of finally latched on with the bad team,
Yeah, but he's matched up with a really good quarterback. There'll be a good connection for years to come now, so that'll be cool.
And he's not drawing top coverage anymore.
Right. Amari Cooper, he's kind of their number one, and then they've got some other pretty interesting weapons too.
Latavius Murray,
that Roberts kid. I can't remember his first name. Seth Roberts.
Yep.
There's another guy, Holmes, I think. They've got some weapons. So yeah. Michael Rivera, Clive Walford. I like what they've done there. Marcel Reese. I'm not even. They've just got a lot of potentially strong weapons for Derek Carr, and so he's good a distributor too. So that'll be an interesting team to watch next year. In the meantime, they will win, I believe, this week. Moving on, this is an important game for the Seahawks in terms of future opponent in the playoffs potentially. Washington at Philly. This is one of those games that I really didn't know who to pick, honestly. Philly is favored by 3 at home, so it seems like it's pretty close in terms of Vegas's eyes. What do you think about this game?
Well, of all of the games this year, I think this is the one that has split the country the most. It is 50.7% in favor of the Redskins right now.
Wow.
And I had the Eagles picked all week. But the more I think about the game, the more I think the Redskins are a better team. And Philly hasn't been that great at home. They're only 3-4 at home. So I don't know how big of a deal it is that this game is in Philadelphia. The thing is, the Redskins have just been so inconsistent. Like, they don't play an average football game. They're either really good and can beat almost anyone, or they can get beat by everybody.
Right.
And I think that right now, at 7-7, this game is huge because, we'll get to the Giants later, but without Beckham, I mean, the winner of this game could very well be the winner of the division. So it's going to matter a lot. There's going to be a ton of pressure on the Eagles from the home crowd and on Chip Kelly. If they lose this one, I think it's going to be a really, really bad loss for them.
Yeah.
And I like the Eagles, which is why it sucks that I think they're going to lose this week, because I think that Kirk Cousins has really settled into being a very good quarterback, which is weird.
Yeah.
He leads the NFL in completion percentage. It's like the 5th or 6th highest completion percentage in history, actually. Deshaun Jackson is completely balling out right now. Jordan Reed gives them, options in the red zone that they hadn't had before. The running game still, for some reason, just hasn't gotten going with them. It's been so strong for them lately. Years. But it just hasn't happened. But the defense has been pretty good. And I don't know, this time of year, I like to look more at weighted DVOA than straight up DVOA, because, how a team played in week 3 or 4 might not have a whole lot of bearing on how they're going to play next week, but how they've played over their last 4 weeks does. And the gap between the two teams gets pretty big when you look at it that way. Philly's 23rd out of 32 teams. Their weighted DVOA is negative 11.7, and Washington is 13th at plus 3.3, and that's a pretty big difference. So I think that difference in how well they're playing right now, and kind of that sense of knowing who they are, I still don't think Philly does, has me leaning towards Washington. I think it's a big enough talent difference to cover the fact that they're on the road. So I won't be surprised at all if the Eagles win, but I do have the Redskins.
Yeah, I picked Washington also. I just think they're a better team. And like you said, I think their quarterback is playing better right now, and that's huge. Their running game is pretty non-existent, but I don't know, just the way that they've been playing lately, and the way that Philadelphia has been so inconsistent, it just makes me feel more confident in Washington. So I don't know. Again, this is one of those like games that I just really didn't have a strong feeling about one way or another. It's like we talked about this a couple of times. Like I don't know who anybody in the NFC East is really.
Yep.
Like I literally could not give you an opinion on who I want to play the most as a Seahawks fan. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I do know the team I don't want to play the most is Washington, or I'm sorry, New York.
New York, yeah.
I think they're the best of the bunch.
Yeah, so I picked Washington in this one. It'll be an interesting game to watch. It'll be important for the Seahawks, so keeping that one in mind. Move down the line, we got the Giants at Vikings. Obviously, the big news for the Giants is no Odell Beckham, despite what Jaws was told. Yeah, so what do you think about this game?
I mean, I think it'll be a competitive one for sure. I don't think Minnesota is as much better than the Giants as their record says. You think of a 9-5 team, you think of a really, pretty good team, and 6-8 think that maybe they're not so good. Taking the Vikings, they're at home, and without Odell Beckham, it's just going to be hard, I think, for the Giants to score. If Beckham was playing, I would pick the Giants because I think that they would get, 24 plus points with a real chance at 30 plus, and I just don't see Minnesota being able to score that much. But now I don't think they'll have to. I'm not sure without a running game and without like a real threat to beat top coverage now, I don't know how they score much more than 20 points. Assuming Adrian Peterson's ankle is as good as they're saying it is, the Vikings should be able to stay who they are. Bridgewater's coming off his best game of the season. Stephon Diggs is looking great. So I took the Vikings in this one, but it really does have everything to do for me with Beckham being out.
Yeah. I picked the Vikings as well. I think Teddy Bridgewater's heating up. He had 4 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown last week, I think. And having that balance on offense is going to be huge for them if he can continue to play that way. And, obviously I think their defense is still pretty darn good too. Not like great or anything, but I just think they're a more balanced team than the Giants. And then without Beckham, it's a big deal. So, and it's in Minnesota. So I don't know. All those factors made me just lean towards Minnesota on this one. And again, I just don't really know how I feel about any team in the NFC East at this point, even the Giants. I know that you like them a little bit more than everyone else, but I
don't know. Like them per se, but
you hate them the least.
Yeah. In terms of like overall football talent and just having a quarterback head coach combo that can win big games.
Right.
I think that does matter.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one too. So obviously, as a Seahawks fan, you want to watch those 2 games, especially moving down, because obviously Minnesota. I don't know. Do you want to be rooting for New York in this one? You want Minnesota to lose, I think.
Yeah, we definitely want Minnesota to lose. I will be cheering for the Giants.
There you go. Chicago at Tampa Bay. Chicago for a minute there looked like a really, they were resurgent. They had, some things clicking on offense. Their defense was playing pretty well for a while, and then they really just regressed to just shitting the bed. Cutler's played poorly. I don't know. They just seem pretty punchless these days. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I went with the Buccaneers, and what I see are 2 extremely similar teams. Like in terms of how they do their offense, who their production comes through, overall talent level. I just think that these teams are really, really, really similar to each other. And I was thinking, I was like, I honestly couldn't tell you who was higher in DVOA. So I looked it up, and they're like almost exactly even. Chicago is 19th. Tampa Bay is 20th. There's less than a percentage difference point between them. In weighted DVOA, they're actually doing better. Tampa Bay is 15th and Chicago is 16th. So basically, they are the exact same team. It was kind of cool to have that notion validated that way. So I think Chicago's a little bit better on offense. I think Tampa Bay is a little bit better on defense. But I really didn't like what I saw from Cutler last week. I mean, this is the downside to Cutler being Cutler, right? And maybe he bounces back. And good Jay Cutler can definitely beat the Buccaneers. But when I see two teams this similar to each other and not one matchup advantage that really stands out, I'm comfortable going with the home team, and I think the Bucs get their 7th win.
I picked the Bucs also. So far, 4 for 4.
Yep.
I don't know. Again, I one Buccaneers are at home. I just been looking at the way that Chicago has been playing, especially last week. I just, I don't know. They just don't inspire a lot of confidence in me. I think Tampa Bay, are they eliminated from the playoffs right now? Or are they still?
Yeah, Seattle's win officially knocked them out.
Okay. But regardless, I still think they've got some weapons. I don't know. I like Jameis Winston. I think Doug Martin's a really good back. I mean, obviously, there's some weapons on Chicago's team, and Forte is really good. And they got, I don't know. It's just like they just really seem like they haven't been clicking lately. So that's
we have not spent enough time appreciating the season Doug Martin is having.
Right, he's kind of really flown under the radar.
Yeah, there's an article in Football Outsiders today that was taking a look at whether or not he's the best running back in the NFL this year.
That's crazy. And, yeah. I mean, the numbers probably back it up. He's if he's not leading the NFL in rushing, he's close. Or he's a second to Adrian Peterson, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I think he's still second by just a scotch, but he was like 200 some yards behind AP, and he's
close the gap
big time. Let's see, he is 9 yards now.
Wow.
Behind Adrian Peterson, but he's doing it at 5.1 yards per carry, whereas AP's doing it at 4.6. Like, that's nutty. And he catches the ball too.
Yeah. And no one's talking about it.
Nobody's talking about him. He's having a monster year.
It's kind of weird. He's probably going to be the comeback player of the year if Eric Berry doesn't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric Berry is a really cool story. I wouldn't be sad if Doug Martin didn't get it, but I mean, dang, he's definitely one of the favorites for that.
Yep.
Moving down the line, so we both picked Tampa Bay. Moving down the line, we got Carolina at Atlanta. Carolina has another chance to kind of continue their perfect season. Atlanta did get back into the win column last week, miraculously. But I still think that Carolina is going to win this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta got their first win in 2 months, but they did everything they could to lose to the Jaguars in that one. So I think that, it's not really like a win that makes me reevaluate how good they are. I still think they're pretty bad. I think they're in the bottom third of the NFL in terms of just overall quality of team. Matt Ryan still looks just like either the NFL has figured him out or there's something wrong physically, because he's been pretty bad this year, despite having, really two of the great weapons in the NFL this season in Devontae Freeman and Julio Jones. There's no reason for someone with Matt Ryan's pedigree and track record to be a below average quarterback.
Yep.
So I think the Panthers probably put the wood to him pretty good in this one.
Yeah, I picked the Panthers as well. I don't think we need to spend too much time talking about that one. Moving down the line, Dallas at Buffalo. Buffalo is now eliminated from the playoffs for the 16th straight season. Again, they kind of came into this year with a little bit of hype. Rex Ryan, talks big game, and the defense really underwhelmed. The offense was actually a little bit better than I thought it would be, or quite a bit better than I thought it would be, actually.
Yeah, me too. It's just really bad this year.
Yeah, but the offense just hasn't been enough. That said, Dallas is not good, but they've kind of played every team. It seems like they've lost like every game they've lost, they've been in. It feels like I can't think of.
They honestly they've got a lot of fight. Considering they're getting nothing from Dez Bryant, nothing from their quarterback position. You're right. They are really, really competitive week in and week out. I mean, shoot, we saw it as Seahawks fans. Seahawks needed a field goal, 2 minutes left to win. Let's see. Yeah, their biggest loss. Well, okay, they lost two big games. Lost to the Panthers by 19 and the Packers by 21. But everything else has been one score, and Falcons by 11 early in the season. So yeah. They've been not just getting rolled up on.
Yeah. And that's how I feel every week. And so I'm reticent to just say, oh, this one's easily Buffalo. I picked Buffalo nonetheless. But I mean, I still think, they've done a remarkably good job of being in games considering they don't have Romo and they didn't have Dez for a long time. And, their defense wasn't special to start with. And so I don't know. This could be a close game, I think.
Yeah, definitely. This is a top, and I don't think Dallas is going to score very many points. So I think Buffalo probably wins this by a touchdown or better.
Fair enough. Moving on. So we still have picked everything the same so far. Moving to Jacksonville, New Orleans. I know you're kind of a Jacksonville fan a little bit, aren't you?
I think that Jacksonville can beat very specific types of teams. I think that you have to score a lot to beat Jacksonville. I don't think the Jaguars are the type of team that you're just going to hold to 14 points. And so,
right.
So I'm looking at really over their last, they score a shit ton of points. Yeah, really since the first month of the season, 31, 31, 34, 23, 22, 51. So anyway, all this is to say, I think that the Jaguars can score a lot of points against most teams. And on Football Outsiders today, the Saints, 2015 Saints, were basically crowned the worst defense in NFL history by DVOA. I mean, unless they basically throw like a 6 turnover shutout this week, they'll finish as the worst defensive DVOA ever. So I think that the formula is there for Jacksonville to just score a bonkers amount of points. All of their players on offense are clicking. Julius Thomas being healthy, I think, has really been what's opened that offense up. Denard Robinson looks good in place of TJ Yeldon. The Allens are having enormous seasons, especially Robinson, who is like playing like an elite wide receiver. He's got 13.
Another guy that's kind of been flying under the radar, Doug Martin.
Yeah, his numbers are goofy. So
yeah.
I think Jacksonville's going to score a lot of points. Now, the Saints can score a lot of points. They can score a lot of points against anybody. But that's what the fully healthy Drew Brees. And Drew Brees tore a tendon in his foot.
Yeah.
The same thing that eventually knocked Peyton Manning out. And while Peyton Manning was playing at a level below Drew Brees when he was healthy, that drop-off was precipitous when you can't push off of one of your feet. And especially for Drew Brees, who has this patent on throwing off of his toes, I just don't see how he can do it. Apparently he's been in unbearable pain all week. So even if he does gut it out and play and gets all cortisoned up, I just don't know that they're going to score 40 points. And I honestly think that's what it's going to take. So I took the Jaguars on this one. Most of the country's going against me, and so is Vegas. 71% is picking the Saints. But
I wonder how that line will change once once we learn more about Brees' injury.
Yeah, and I don't know that he's out. He might play, and he might throw 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. Nothing he does will ever surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I picked New Orleans on this one.
All right.
So that's another swing game. I didn't consider the Brees thing as much as I should have. I think I was kind of just expecting him to be okay.
I still think he's going to play.
Yeah. So that was kind of where I went with it. And I think you're right that it's going to be a shootout. I mean, look at the over-under right now is 52, which is 3 points more than any other game. And so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be, one of those games. But before I realized, I think, how bad or how much of an issue the foot was, I thought that Drew Brees would kind of outgun Bortles. But now I'm feeling a little less confident about it. But regardless, I think it's going to be one of those non-defensive games, and whoever scores last wins. So that's one to watch. The first one we've disagreed about. Detroit and San Francisco in Detroit.
When was the last time there was a game with teams this late in the season with records as close as these where it's not even a thought?
Right.
The 49ers have 4 wins this year somehow. And, while the Lions only have 5, I think there is just a massive difference between the two teams. I think the Lions are actually a pretty all right.
And Bob Cooter.
15th in DVOA. They're not a good team, but they're not a 5-9 team. They're at home. They've been playing really well lately for the most part. And the 49ers are just one of those teams where everything has to kind of break their way in order for them to get a win. And I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I picked Detroit too. Their offense has been pretty darn good lately.
I would like to see what I'm going to look up their weighted offensive DVOA because about 4 weeks ago is when Cooter took over, right?
Old Coot, yeah. I saw a great stat. I'm pulling it up here. Trying to find it real quick here. It basically Evan Silva talked about. Let's see here. He talked about the difference in what Matt Stafford has done. Okay, here it is. Matthew Stafford has a 68.2% completion rate with a 14-2 touchdown to interception ratio since the Lions' Week 9 bye. Since then, Detroit is 4-2, both losses by 7 or less. So they're playing pretty good ball right now.
They're playing the way that everyone thought they would all season.
Yeah. So I saw that tweet this morning, and it gave me some confidence making this pick. I mean, I was going to pick them anyway, but makes me feel better about it. And San Francisco is a different team on the road than they are at home. They're just not good on the road. I mean, they're bad at home too, but they're much better at home than they are on the road. So, or at least their defense is. So I just think this one's going to go to Detroit pretty handily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we both agree about that. Going to Kansas City and Cleveland. We just got a first glance at the Browns. Obviously, Johnny Manziel's kind of exciting thing. But Kansas City, man, they're a hot team right now. They're actually favored by –
They might win that division.
That'd be insane.
They were 5 games out of first place after 6 games.
Yeah.
And they're now a game back with tiebreaker over Denver. So they might win the AFC West.
That would be interesting. That's really, I didn't even think about that. It kind of felt like a foregone conclusion that Denver was. But yeah. All right. Well, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on that game. Nope. Kansas City, easy. Miami and Indy. In Miami.
This is the hardest pick of the week.
Matt Hasselbeck. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, this is the hardest pick of the week for me. Who'd you go with?
I went with Miami because I kind of just feel like the Colts suck. I don't know. It's like they're really banged up, obviously, and the injuries are a huge issue. And then, I mean, of course, Matt Hasselbeck, he's been fighting through a whole bunch of stuff. I just think they probably, we talked about this last week, and it kind of happened. Houston didn't let them do anything on offense. I don't think Miami's as good of a defensive team as Houston, obviously, but I think that Indianapolis is just pretty punchless on offense. Love Matt Hasselbeck and everything, but he's just so banged up. I don't think he can be very effective. And, I like Miami's offensive weapons more. And I just think they have I just think they're better. But, I mean, not by a lot, but I just like Miami more. You went with Miami too?
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Okay, so get this. Remember I said the closest game of the year so far in terms of the country was Washington and Philly?
Yeah.
Okay, so Washington was 50. Let me look at it. Washington's a favorite with 50.79%, okay?
Right.
Indianapolis is the favorite with 50.79%. So that's kind of funny that they're like tied for the 2 closest. So it really could be these 2 games that kind of determine a lot of office pools.
Yep.
I went with Miami. It was the hardest one for me. I just where the Colts points are going to come from. you know?
Right.
Like, how are they going to – I don't think they need to score a lot to beat the Dolphins, but they'll have to score 20-something, and I'm not sure how they're going to do it, like with what weapons. So, I mean, it's heroic what Hasselbeck is doing. It's crazy that this game still matters for a 6-8 team, and it matters a lot more to the Colts than it does to the Dolphins. But I do think the Dolphins, like as an organization and as a roster, have a lot of potential, and I think they're aware of that. So I think that the end of this season is really about them establishing an identity after Joe Philbin. And I mean, Lamar Miller is leading the NFL in yards after contact as a running back. For some reason, they just don't give him a lot of carries. Jarvis Landry is turning into like a Julian Edelman level possession receiver. Devontae Parker starting to look like the guy that was drafted in the first round. I don't know. My point is that the Dolphins can score points. I can look at this game and imagine the Dolphins scoring touchdowns. I look at this game and I have to force myself to imagine the Colts scoring 3 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking too, like spot on. Moving on, we got New England at New York. This looked like this could be a good game.
A lot of people are picking the Jets. I've seen on like picks shows and stuff.
I mean, it's in New York. I don't know if that makes a big difference, but New England's really banged up, and I mean, man, they're just losing the battle of attrition, but they keep on winning. They're still the number 1 seed, or they have the inside track for the number 1 seed, and obviously they have Tom Brady. But New York's been playing pretty well. Did you end up picking the Jets in this?
No, I wanted to. I went into it looking for reasons to pick the Jets. But I think Edelman's going to be back this week.
Oh, that will be big for them then. If that's
so. I mean, now again, you're talking about Edelman and Gronkowski. You know, like there's a lot of injuries on their line on defense. Sucks to see Dom Easley go out again. I really hope he gets right. That guy's had a million injuries already. They're super banged up, and I think the Jets can score against them. I don't think this will be a blowout, but it takes a special situation for me to pick against Belichick and Brady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like there's anything that they're not going to be expecting in this game. So I did take the Patriots. I think it'll be close game. We're talking about 2 of maybe the 10 best teams in the NFL. I just think that the difference between them overall is still fairly big, even with the Jets being healthier. And I mean, the Marshall Decker combo is awesome. I would be a Jets fan, you know,
right?
Because watching those guys is so rad. And I think they're going to give New England some trouble, but you know, Brady might deserve MVP this year. It's so crazy to say, but he might. He's been awesome, and I took the Patriots.
Yeah, I did too. Again, I mean, I kind of hesitated when I was going through this one, but like I just don't. I mean, the Jets might end up winning, but I just feel way more confident going with New England just because like. How often are you going to bet against Brady and Belichick? You know what I mean? And it's like you could get lucky and get it right on this one, but I was just kind of going with I guess that was my safe pick on this one, and I feel pretty good about it. So I don't know. I just can't. It's hard for me to pick against Brady, and like you said, unless it's something like really a special situation,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too, because I kind of see this as an elimination game for the Jets, even though they're at 9-5, and that's crazy to think about. But Pittsburgh's last 2, so basically it's between them and Pittsburgh for that final spot.
Right.
And Pittsburgh's last 2 games are against Baltimore and Cleveland. And, the Jets get the Bills next week, which I think they can and probably will win. But I don't think the Steelers are going to lose anymore. As long as Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown are healthy, they're going to beat those 2 teams. So if the Jets lose this one, right now they have a tiebreak over Pittsburgh, I believe. but they can't afford to lose. So every game's a playoff game for them, which that's going to make this one really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's going to be a great game. So that'll be one to watch. That's the early schedule or early slate on Sunday.
Yeah, they're doing a million early games again this week.
I don't like that at all. It's weird.
Me neither.
But what can you do? Tennessee and Houston. I think this is probably another one of those games that'll. Well, I'm actually looking at the thing. It's mostly people picking Houston, but it's in Tennessee. What do you think about this game?
I'm pretty on the fence on it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. This is crazy, but I mean, if Brian Hoyer plays, and this is, again, what makes picking early in the week tough. If Brian Hoyer plays, I think Houston wins. But if he doesn't, I mean, they're not a good team. And I'm going with Tennessee in this game. I'm going with Tennessee in this game.
I did too.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
You're kidding me. There's a player on the Titans, and I don't think we've mentioned his name once this year, and he's probably my biggest Pro Bowl snub. But Delanie Walker has been the most consistent tight end in the NFL this year. And in an offense with no other weapons, Delanie Walker just keeps killing it. And, you know, he was that entire offense against the Patriots last week. So, and the Patriots knew that and still couldn't stop him. So it's weird, but it is Zach Mettenberger. And, man, I just don't know. I'm so bummed that you picked Tennessee also. I just wish I knew if Hoyer was playing. I might hedge on that. I might flip that before this episode's over.
All right. Well, I picked Tennessee. And again, I don't feel very confident about this pick. Tennessee is actually favored, according to the thing that we're looking at right now.
By a decent margin.
Yeah. So it's a little surprising because I think on our group or in the Pick'em, ESPN Pick'em, Houston was heavily favored by pickers.
92%?
Yeah, 92%. That's crazy because, I mean, I don't know. I just figured it would have been a little closer on both sides. But I think Houston doesn't really have an offense. They're very good on defense. I think Tennessee – I don't know. I don't know why I picked Tennessee, honestly. But I just kind of like them more this game. You said Mettenberger is starting. What happened to Mariota? Is he shut down?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just shut him down to be careful. Even so, I think, I don't know. I just like Tennessee more in this one. I guess it's two bad teams, and who do you like more? And, it's in Tennessee, so that's a little factor there. I don't think Houston did not look particularly impressive last week against the Colts. And there's a lot of parity right now in that division. So, again, I don't know. This is just a tough one for me. I just kind of went with my gut, and I picked Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if you stick with it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. I'm picking Houston.
All right.
I'm picking Houston. Yeah, that's more honest. I really want to pick Tennessee. I really do. But it would be a dishonest pick on my part. I think the Texans are still better. The Titans are 32nd in weighted DVOA. So according to DVOA, they are the coldest team in the NFL. And I just can't talk myself into it with Mettenberger. Damn it. I tried, though. So that's another one.
That's one that we can – that's one we can look at. Makes a couple of bad games look more interesting. So
yes.
Going down the line, Green Bay and Arizona, this is a big game. This is one of the late slate games, actually, with Seattle and St. Louis. What do you think of this game?
I think the Cardinals are going to win.
Yeah.
But I do think it'll be a really good game. Arizona, assuming Carson Palmer's finger was, appropriately popped back into place and all of that, I think he sat out practice today to rest it, but it sounds like he's going to go. And assuming he's at least 90% of what he would be otherwise, I think they win this game just because I think the Cardinals might have the best roster in the NFL, definitely a top 3 or 4 roster in the NFL. So, and they're just playing lights out. You know, everyone's talking about Seattle as the hottest team in the league, but it wasn't that long ago that Arizona came real close to kicking the shit out of them. So I take some flack on Twitter for talking up the Cardinals, but until I see a reason otherwise, I just think they're so good. The Packers have been better since McCarthy took over play calling, but we're still seeing an Aaron Rodgers that we've never seen before, and I think it goes deeper than just not having Jordy Nelson. I still think he's great. I still think he's probably the best quarterback in the world, but something just is different with the timing and communication in the last 2 months. It's his lowest completion percentage ever. It's really just been his worst statistical year since his first one starting. So I think he has to be the best Aaron Rodgers in order to beat the Cardinals. What's going to make it interesting is how Arizona scheming now that they've lost Tyrann Mathieu, because there are very few players in the NFL that can move around a secondary the way he can.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a big factor, and I wonder how much it will hurt Arizona in this game. But I went with you. I went with Arizona. Anyway, I think, I just think that Green Bay is not the same team as they used to be, or maybe that we thought they would be. And I think Arizona is really, really good. So I think even without Mathieu, I think they'll be fine. There won't be quite as dangerous, I guess, on defense, but I still think they'll have a strong defense. They've weathered some losses before. I mean, obviously they weathered the loss of Mathieu before and still were really good. So, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be fine. And I think they're going to win this game. And it'll be interesting to see, though, how big of a difference it makes. Moving down the line, Seattle and St. Louis. Seattle's favored by 13.5, which actually feels kind of a lot. Like, it feels like a little too big to me. Almost.
We kind of have a little bit of a syndrome when it comes to the Rams, though.
Yeah, no doubt. So, who did you pick in this one?
I actually, for the first time in a long time, I think the Seahawks are going to beat the Rams fairly comfortably. I don't think they blow them out, but I think they come close to covering that line. Right now, it's a very, very short list of teams that I would choose that I would bet money on winning in Seattle the way the Seahawks are playing right now. And the Rams aren't on that list. And that's basically what it comes down to. Something about going up against Pete Carroll and the Seahawks seems to bring out the best in Jeff Fisher and the Rams. You look at some of the quarterbacks that have beaten the Seahawks as Rams. And you're talking about like Foles and Austin Davis and some crazy stuff like that over the last couple of years. I don't think it's going to happen this time. I just hope that Greg Williams' defense doesn't hurt anybody on the Seahawks is basically my main thing. So I think the Seahawks are just too good to let the Rams hang around for too long.
Yeah.
This is not going to be the same offensive line versus defensive line matchup we saw in week 1 at all.
It's been so long. It's crazy that they played in week 1. Like how much different everything is now.
Yeah, 4 months of development in between.
Crazy. Feels like it doesn't even feel like it happened this year, frankly.
Right.
But I picked Seattle too. Looks like they've got the over under at 40. So, and if they're favored by 13, I guess they think Seattle or that St. Louis isn't going to be able to score too much.
Basically a 27-13 final score.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about this last week. It's so rare to see a 2-touchdown favorite when the over-under is less than the high 40s. To see it at, 40 even right now?
Yeah, 40.5.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Still 2 touchdowns. So, they were basically looking at a 27-13 prediction, 28-14, somewhere in there.
Sounds right. I don't know. It sounds right.
Yeah, it does.
Pittsburgh at Baltimore. I think I know what you're going to go with this one.
Yeah, you know how much I love the Steelers.
And Pittsburgh is still, and Baltimore is still just lost. They've lost all their good
I
players.
I just feel bad for them this year. These are two franchises that I have a ton of respect and admiration for, just in terms of how they built themselves and go about their business and all that. And really in the same way that the luster has fallen off of the Seahawks 49ers rivalry, unfortunately that's happened with this one, which I still think has been the best NFL rivalry probably of my lifetime, is Steelers Ravens. And I think the Steelers just murder them in this one.
Yeah, I picked Steelers as well. And the final game will be Denver and Cincinnati. That is the Monday night game.
That's
what do you think?
Man, two great teams with backup quarterbacks.
Right.
I mean, so what do you do? I know we all kind of fell for Brock Osweiler and they won a couple of games and whatever, but he hasn't been impressive, really.
No.
I mean, you wouldn't just look at his performance in a vacuum and be like, yes.
Right.
That said, I mean, we're talking about maybe one of the 5 or 6 best defenses of the last 30 years when we're talking about the Broncos, which is amazing what Antonio Brown did to them last week. But I think they lock it in this week. I have a hard time seeing A.J. McCarron winning this game on the road. That said, I think the Bengals and Broncos, I mean, I think that there's 6, well, with the Chiefs, maybe 7 really, really, really good football teams in the NFL, and that's it. And these are 2 of them. So it can definitely go either way. I think I might actually like A.J. McCarron a little bit more than Brock Osweiler, to be honest. I think he's actually looked really good, and it looks like they're actually pretty comfortable continuing to do the Hugh Jackson stuff with McCarron in there, which was my big concern with them.
Mm-hmm.
But Broncos defense, I just think is too good. They're going to throw some shit at him that he's never seen. I promise you, never in his life has he had smaller windows, both timing and in terms of physical space, to throw to than he'll have this week. So if A.J. McCarron and the Bengals beat the Broncos, look out. That's legit. And if Dalton was healthy, I'd really consider it. But still think, even though the Broncos are reeling a bit, I think the defense is basically, my point is the defense is good enough to win this game for him.
Yeah, I agree. And that's pretty much the exact reasoning I used when I picked Denver. So, because they got 3 corners, like elite corners. Obviously Cincinnati's got some great receivers, but man, I think that A.J. McCarron is going to be a baptism of fire in this one. So that'll be an interesting game to watch. But if he can, like you said, if they can win this game, then that kind of puts the NFL on notice that like Cincinnati's not done even without Dalton.
Yep.
So that'll be a fun one to watch. But I picked Denver also. So it looks like we've disagreed on Houston, Tennessee, New Orleans, and Jacksonville, and that is it.
Yeah, just the 2 this week. So you've got a chance to pass me.
Yep, or I could go down even more. Well, do you have any against the spread picks for us this week?
Yeah, I think the Rams cover in Seattle. It's just a huge line for a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
So I've got that. Got Jacksonville as a natural cover. They're getting 3.5 from New Orleans. I'd love that one. I think if you have a chance to get that line now, do it, because if it comes out that Breeze is out or severely limited, that will disappear in a heartbeat. So jump on that. And I mean, the other one that I have is Washington at Philly. I've got Philly's a favorite by 3. I think Washington beats them.
Yeah.
So those would be the 3 that I feel most comfortable with this week.
Very good. Well, it's another, obviously getting down to the wire here, and some of these games are more interesting than others. But it seems like there's quite a few good games on the slate this week.
Yeah, there really are. I mean, Philly-Washington matters a ton. Minnesota and the Giants matter a ton. Carolina, they've still got their undefeated season going. That's a good one.
New England, New
Jacksonville
York.
will be entertaining as hell.
Yep, New England, New York will be big.
Arizona, Green Bay.
Arizona, Green Bay.
Cincinnati, Denver, man. Okay. Yeah, there's
a good one.
There's a lot of good games this week.
So, yeah, I guess we'll just wrap it up there. Do you have anything to add before we sign off for this week?
No. This is it's going to be really interesting. This is kind of, I think, the last week where every single team in the NFL is still like playing for something. Nothing is clinched yet, really.
Yeah.
So, there's no one locked in as the number one seed or anything. Next week, week 17 is a really goofy one to try and pick. So that'll be interesting. But I'm kind of enjoying that this is the last true NFL week in terms of what we see from every team.
No doubt. All right, well, remember to subscribe on iTunes to us. Listen to 3000 NFL Mock Draft, Kenny and Rob Staten. Listen to Reel in the Field Goal. That actually went up yesterday. We did that a little early for this week, and so Mina Kimes is on that. So check that out. And, yeah, I guess we'll talk to you next week.
Later.